Okay, this is going to be a short tutorial on how to use Livesplit. Just go to Livesplit in Google, just download it. And when you get the program initially, it's going to look pretty much like this, just a small timer. I can show it on the desktop as well, what it actually looks like. Not much going on here. You're gonna have to worry with layouts and then you are with the actual splits as far as what you're setting up. So once we get this up and loaded, you can right click and edit splits, which is the best first step to take, I believe. And we are going to go to game name at the top, and we're doing Bloodborne. So you can type that in and select from the drop down. If a game has auto splits, which this game doesn't since it's on console, it would automatically be activated, or you'd have to click activate, and then there's more to do with the auto splitter, but you don't have to worry about that with this game. Then go to run category, and we are doing all bosses. So boom, you can go to additional info here. So you have real time, game time, additional info, and you can set it to unrestricted or no clipping, which we're doing unrestricted. So select unrestricted and go back to real time. And this is where we're going to actually make our splits. So let's just say we wanted to do segment name gas coin, or actually we'll do like clinic skip. And then we'll do another segment below for shadows, freeze, etc., gas coin. I'm just going to add a lot of generic ones now. And then we'll do the last one as end of the run. Just to have some things to work with. Another thing is, depending on your setup, if you want to hit split as soon as you start the game for Bloodborne, you want to have a negative time. So you can change the start timer here. And for my particular setup, I do negative 13.5 seconds. That's because I have a PS4 Pro and an SSD, and your times are going to be a little bit different. If you just have an SSD, I think it's like 18 seconds. If you have HDD and regular PlayStation, it's like 20 something seconds. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to set ours to negative 13.5. That way, whenever we start game, we hit splits at the same time. And if we're spamming options to the cutscene correctly, then it'll line up pretty much perfect. Okay, so there's our splits. I'm going to okay this now. So this is what our splits look like currently. Now we're going to go to edit layout and sort of show you, you have different elements you can add. You can see right now I have sum best. I have the actual detailed timer here. And then we have our actual splits up top. Let me move this down a little bit more and go back to edit layout again. Okay, so we can actually see it all changing. So this part, you can use the plus sign to add new sort of elements to it, or you can click on one and press minus to get rid of it. And you can also reposition them. So if I wanted to put sum best above the detailed timer, I could click up right here and see how it swaps them at the bottom as such. But if you wanted to add more elements, you can do regular timer, detailed timer, which is what I have. You have splits and I'm not going to go into sub splits, but sub splits are actually really cool, especially for longer runs. You can have like a sort of a split to capture the rest of them. Then you have like sub splits underneath it. It's really good for like trophy run. And you can add different elements here. Your sum of best, which I already have. You can add in the world record, different things, and just kind of re-stack them how you want with the arrow keys over here. You can add sounds to it, to like when you split or when you get golds or when you reset. I'm not going to go into any of that because it doesn't matter. So anyway, so we have it set up like we want, for instance, and now we're going to go into layout settings. And let's see. So here, you want to kind of color everything black, so that way when you do your color key, which I'll explain in a minute, it'll sort of make all that transparent. So like here, I don't think the color would be defaulted to black. I don't know what it would be. I just change it here. set it to black, and then all the like line breaks and stuff that you find and like show thin line separators here, I get rid of those entirely. Try and change all these to dark colors. Like this isn't actually affecting anything except for like when the split's actually highlighted, which you want to show, so it's going to be blue there. But yeah, anything you can swap to black, just to make it everything except the actual splits themselves, like the white text. I would just say make it all black where you can in these settings. As far as I actually have sub splits selected right now instead of regular splits, so you can put how many splits you want to show, or how many splits you actually have. So like so we have Clinic Skip, Shadows Freeze, Gascoigne, A, C, D, E. That's 8 that is showing. So that's what total splits is. And upcoming splits is how many you want to show early. So if we bump this up more, let's see, to like 1. Let's see what that does. So like if we're going through splitting here, we skip. It doesn't actually scroll down if we had 1 selected. Let's go back into it. So we have 3. So if we did like, yeah, let's go down to 1, okay it, okay. And now we start splitting. Watch what happens when we get down close to it. It doesn't actually scroll until we get to the very bottom. That's why I like to keep it at, let's go back into subsplits. Anyway, I like to set it to like 3. That way when you're going through splitting, it scrolls early so you can see a couple of splits ahead. You see what I mean? Let's do it again. That way you know what's coming up. You can mess around with the layout settings a bit, obviously. Like if you don't want to see the milliseconds and different things, like you could actually go to detailed timer and like, I guess segment timer or something. You could swap from 0.23 to 0.2 or just like have nothing. So it's only full seconds that show, and change it here. So like there's 2 timers here, like your main timer and then the timer for the actual split. You can mess with that if you want. The something else here is when you come here by default, you're gonna have 2 columns probably. You're gonna have a delta column and then you're gonna have a split time column. I actually got rid of my split time column and made it a combo, and I changed column type. Because like you'll have these 2, I think, delta as 1 column and split as 1. I did a delta or split, which basically means that if I have times already set, it'll show those times, and once I split, it'll show +2 or -3 or whatever, you know, my delta is. It'll override that. It's kind of a more consolidated version of splits. And I didn't mess with either of these. I just did current comparison as default and timing method, current timing method. So it's just whatever's defaulted for those 2. So yeah, something I like to do to keep that nice and tight. Yeah, there's some videos out there that go into detail about setting all this up, but that's pretty much how I have mine. Now, as far as hiding it, so whenever you put it over Bloodborne, it doesn't cover up anything with like big black box. We're going to go into we're going to add a source. So we have our scenes here and our sources here. Go to plus for the sources. We're going to add a window capture. I'm going to name it Livesplit, or splits even. Create new. Okay it. Oh, it's already in use. Crap. Okay, we already have one added. Let's actually delete that if we can. No, we'll just make a brand new one called splits testing. Yep. Okay, here we go. Anyway, so splits testing. So here are splits. You select it from a drop down. So any windows you have open, Edge, Mozilla, Firefox, Livesplit. So we have Livesplit selected. I'm going to not capture cursor, and I'm going to okay it. So now if I go into PlayStation, now we have this this split here, which this is the one we already made. That's already nice and already set up for is already set up for the color key. So you can see now we have like, we have the splits, but we also have all the black that covers up everything. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back to desktop to show you. So for splits testing, we're gonna right click, we're gonna add a filter, and we're gonna go to the plus sign at the bottom left and go to color key. Just okay that. Now the color key, I'm gonna do key color type to black, which is why I want to set everything as much as I could to black on the splits that I want to hide. So go to custom color, select color, and I click at the top left, make sure it's set to black. You can like use the slider here or whatever, or you can do the color code here, 000 or 6 zeros, either way. So when I have it set to black, similarity, I usually bump up to about 300. You can see how it fades out as you do it higher and higher. Let's do it right about 300. Okay. Smoothness, you can mess with if you want. I don't think I ever mess with smoothness. I just default it to 50. I don't do any setting changes here except color to black, and similarity I bump up to 300, and then we close it. Now if we go back to Bloodborne, you can see now we have all of the black color is gone, and now we just have the white actual split names and title and whatnot in the timer. And now we can resize it, of course, whatever we need to do here. And that's pretty much it. I guess we can show, well, let's show the settings. So if you go to settings here, you can mess with your hotkeys. So something to keep in mind here is if you're going to be using other programs while you're playing and splitting, like if you're going to be typing in chat or you mess with music, searching for stuff, you might want to, I would say, not do global hotkeys, because like, I don't know, it's kind of finicky. And even if you select global hotkeys and keep deactivate for other programs, so if your split keys were arrow keys, like your reset was left, your skip was right, your split was down, your up was previous split or something, and your pause was like alt or something, and you deactivate all those keys for other programs, sometimes it still works for other programs. So if you're like running splits while typing notes, then you're trying to type a note and it's deactivated, like either that key's not going to work for that program, or sometimes it still will work while doing, since it's set to global hotkeys, while still splitting or messing up your splits. So I actually prefer to do it like this. That way I have to have my splits actually selected for any of these hotkeys up top to actually take effect. These are my settings. I think the defaults are probably like function keys or numpad stuff. I don't know. But I do R for reset, U for undo, S for skip, and menu, it's actually Alt on my keyboard. And these are the only 5 I use. I hit spacebar when I want to split. I hit Alt for pausing, and then very rarely do I have to actually, I mean, it's not very rare, but yeah, it's not as often you have to like actually skip splits and reset. So those are just letters that I use. So that's that for me, and that's mostly it. You can see again what the splits look like. You can resize it and then save your actual splits as, let's go back to desktop real quick. So if I were to finish up what I'm doing, I'm going to save splits as, and I already have an unrestricted file, so I'm not going to save over that. But if you have the game and the category set, it'll automatically populate something like this. So I already have Bloodborne set, and I have the all bosses unrestricted category set. So it'll make that save file name for you. But yeah, it's pretty much on the splits. There's some other good videos out there if you want to go into more detail. Other than that, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.